Hey guys, tonight we drift back to a time when the air smelled of chai, rain on brick, and something unspoken threading between glances. You're standing on a railway platform in Lahore, the kind where steam hangs low and the announcements echo like distant prayers. The year is 1946. The air is thick with possibility and dread. But you don't know that yet. All you know is you're watching two strangers, a boy and a girl, notice each other for the first time in a crowd that doesn't have time for softness. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a memory wrapped in barbed wire. And honestly, you probably won't survive this one without tissues or a good cup of tea. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and what time it is right now in the comments. Always love seeing who's out there riding along with me. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're gripping the rail of a wooden bench seat in a third-class carriage, pressed between woven baskets and the elbow of someone's grandmother. The train is crowded, sweaty, loud. But across the aisle, there's this flash of someone. She's leaning against a window, fingers tracing the fogged glass absently, wearing a sky-blue dupatta that keeps slipping down her shoulder. He notices before she does. You do too. He's reading a newspaper upside down, definitely not reading. You smirk. Typical. They don't speak. Not yet. But there's something shared in that cramped silence, an understanding made not of words, but of breath and borrowed time. The train jolts, and just like that, their shoulders brush. She apologizes. He doesn't quite answer. You catch it. Their eyes meet for 2 seconds too long. She exits at Amritsar. He doesn't even know her name, but as the train pulls away, he watches the platform like he's trying to memorize her silhouette, as if the curve of her braid might tell him everything he needs to know. Historians still argue whether casual rail travel helped bridge social classes in colonial India, or merely exposed the fault lines further. But for these two, it bridged something more private, more delicate. Days pass. Lahore bustles. The air smells of tamarind and political leaflets. He's scribbling her features into the margins of his school notes, trying to conjure her. She's staring out her window in Amritsar, wondering if she imagined the way he looked at her like she was a line of poetry in a language he almost understood. And then you're there when he does something ridiculously brave, or foolish, or both. He writes her a letter. He doesn't have her address, doesn't know her name, just describes her, the train, the moment, and sends it to the Amritsar postmaster with a note. If this finds no one, discard it. But if there's a girl who remembers a boy on the Lahore train, sounds absurd, right? It should have disappeared into bureaucracy. Instead, the letter reaches her aunt. Small-town gossip does what bureaucracy can't. She writes back. You can almost hear the scratch of her pen as you lean closer, like you're sitting cross-legged beside her on the floor. I thought perhaps I had imagined it too. Now I know I hadn't. She doesn't sign her full name, just S. From that moment, the letters become their world, one folded envelope at a time. Some pages smell faintly of sandalwood, others carry pressed flowers that crumble when touched. You can picture him waiting by the gate for the postboy, pretending it's for the rent collector. She hides hers behind old textbooks, heart pounding every time her mother dusts the bookshelf. Their words are careful, reverent. No declarations, no wild metaphors, just everyday truths. I saw a camel today. My sister is getting married. I imagined your voice when I saw the rain hit the windows. Quirky tidbit, he once included a sketch of the train carriage, labeled each seat, wrote, "Here's where I fell in love without knowing your name." The world, meanwhile, is splintering. It's spring now, and whispers of partition are no longer whispers. British officers are mapping borders in back rooms while townsfolk argue in marketplaces and temples about whose land belongs to whom. Everyone has an opinion. No one has certainty. But for them, The letters continue, more cautious now, edges tighter, not just by pen but by spirit. You can feel it in the ink. One evening, she writes, "Do you think our letters could cross a line even the governments won't dare?" He replies, "If they don't, then we were never really people, just shadows with good handwriting." Historians note that postal exchanges during this time became unreliable, even dangerous. Families began opening others' mail, suspicious of sedition, or worse, interfaith love. And yet these two keep writing. You find yourself sitting with him under a neem tree as he pens another letter, shielding it from the sun with his hand. The birds are too loud, his thoughts too soft, but he writes anyway. She writes too, by candlelight, careful to blow it out before anyone enters the room. Their love is not loud. It's not even certain, but it's intentional, and that may be rarer. And just as you begin to think maybe, just maybe, words are enough to bridge anything, the lines on the map go permanent. And the letters? Well, the mail isn't what it used to be. You're standing in front of a small wooden post office. Its shutters half closed against the heat, the air still but somehow thick with tension. Behind the counter, a clerk with tired eyes and a cigarette stub stuck to his lip tells a crowd, "Letters to India are delayed, maybe lost, maybe burned." His voice is flat, but your chest tightens, because you're not just any bystander. You're following two people who once thought words alone could hold back the tide, and now that tide has become a flood. It's August, 1947. You don't know it yet, but the world you're walking through is about to be carved like a fruit no one can eat. The British are leaving, and they're not leaving quietly. Ruthless lines are drawn through fields, cities, homes. Lahore to Amritsar is now not just a few hours by train, it's another country. With barbed wire, and soldiers, and a new currency. But that doesn't stop the letters. At least, not at first. You're with her when she sneaks out to the old banyan tree by the well, clutching an envelope under her shawl. She hands it to a trusted shopkeeper's son who travels to the border twice a week. He tucks it into his waistband, says nothing. They never speak of it again. And you're with him when he pays a Tonga driver half his monthly stipend to smuggle out a note. No stamp, no seal, just paper folded and folded again, like hope made small enough to pass unnoticed. They stop using names, start referring to each other by coded initials. S becomes smoke. He signs as River. Sometimes they don't sign at all. The handwriting is the proof. She writes, "It feels strange to remember your face more clearly than my brother's." He answers, "I forget the details of my own city now, but I remember how your eyes looked just after you laughed." You might smile, romantic, right? But the truth is every word is dangerous now. Letters are read, intercepted, ripped up, hidden, passed in secret, sewn into hems, sometimes eaten in desperation when border patrols arrive early. Mainstream historical fact? During partition, over 14 million people were displaced, and nearly 1 million died in the chaos. Whole towns vanished overnight. And in that storm, thousands of personal letters disappeared without a trace, each one a universe that never made it home. You lean into the memory of one night, lantern lit, the sound of riots in the distance, dogs barking far too close. She's writing by instinct, not sight, her candle flickering as she scratches out the words. "I heard someone say Lahore is burning. I don't believe it, but if it is, don't come for me. I'll find a way to you, I swear it." You see him reading that line days later, sitting in a bombed-out veranda with cracked teacups around him. He cries, not with sound, but with breath. Just one shaky exhale. Then he puts the letter into a tin box with the others. There are 17 now, some charred at the edges, all still legible. Here's the quirky tidbit. He once sent her a letter inside a hollowed-out guava, smuggled it in a fruit crate heading east. It arrived sticky, squashed, and fragrant, but still readable. She kept the seeds, planted them, called the sprout Lahore. They continue like this for months, maybe more, but each note now feels thinner, like a page missing a sentence. One time he writes 3 pages and crosses out half before sending. Not because it's wrong, just because he's afraid it might get her hurt. She does the same. Eventually, one of her letters goes missing. She sends a second, a third. Silence. You're with her in the kitchen when she realizes it's been 37 days since his last word. Her hand clenches the ladle so tightly it snaps. Her mother asks if she's all right. She says, "I just remembered something I forgot to forget." But you know the truth. You see her dig through the pages late at night, reading the old ones over and over. You see him too, in his cousin's printing shop, writing and rewriting her name on test pages just to see it in ink. But still, no new letter arrives. One day he receives something in an unfamiliar envelope. You lean in. It's a note, not her handwriting, just 5 lines. "We found this among intercepted messages. Thought you should know. There's a girl in Amritsar. She was asking for you." The letter isn't signed. The paper is torn, like it's been pulled from a fire. But the phrasing, he knows. It's her. Or it was. The silence becomes a wall, not one made of stone or politics, but of fear. He stops sending letters. So does she. Not because they gave up, but because each believed the other had. Historians still argue whether partition destroyed more relationships than it created. Some say love found ways to adapt. New languages, new names, new gods. Others believe that history forgets the love stories because they didn't leave official records, just faded envelopes and torn hearts buried in trunks under beds. You're walking through the quiet between them now, the months where they don't write, where life moves like a mule, slow, stubborn, unwilling. She almost marries someone else. He nearly leaves for Karachi, but neither can say yes when the past still smells like ink and jasmine. Then one day, years later, something stirs. But we're not there yet. Right now, you're sitting beside a girl who still writes letters she never sends, and a boy who reads newspapers for names that aren't printed anymore. And between them, the ghost of a love that refuses to be forgotten. You're in a room that smells of mothballs and ink, surrounded by folded papers that once meant everything. Some are still crisp. Others are faded like breath on glass. You're watching her fingers hover over a half-written letter, one she'll never send. The paper trembles slightly as the fan overhead whirs its slow, useless circles. She writes his name at the top, then draws a line through it. Again. Years have passed. The guava sapling she planted has grown into a thin-limbed tree. People call it partition fruit, not knowing why she waters it so tenderly. They think it's just a habit. You know better. You walk with her through a new Amritsar, busier now, louder, stitched with scars. But even in this noise, the silence between her and him rings louder. It's not just a postal failure anymore. It's a love grown heavy with unsaid things. With time. She doesn't even know if he's alive. And him? You're with him in a Karachi bookshop where he works, older now, quieter. His colleagues call him professor, though he never finished school. They joke that he's always reading, never writing. What they don't see is that every book he opens, he checks the inside cover. For handwriting. For a name. For her. He's still got the tin box, tied with string. 17 letters, all hers. He reads them sometimes with one hand over his mouth, as if silence might make the memory sharper. Once, he almost burned them. Stood there with a match. But the flame made him nauseous. They both move forward, sort of. She becomes a teacher. He lectures sometimes on poetry. They both avoid certain topics. Trains, monsoons, blue scarves. If pressed, they say there was someone once, but they say it softly, like they're worried history might overhear and take it back. Mainstream historical fact? By the 1950s, postal service between India and Pakistan had resumed, but with censors, delays, and missing archives. Whole batches of personal correspondence from those early years were never recovered. Some blame politics. Others say the systems weren't built to handle emotion. But historians still argue whether people let go of those connections or just folded them into quieter parts of themselves. You're sitting with her one evening when an old neighbor, just returned from Lahore, brings her a package. Found this in a shop. Some letters the postmaster never delivered. Might be worth something. You feel it before she does, the weight. She unties the string, one knot at a time. Inside, 5 letters, all addressed to S, all his handwriting, dated months after she thought he'd stopped writing. Her breath catches. You'd expect a rush of tears, but instead, she goes very still, as if the world just proved it wasn't trying to forget her after all. She doesn't read them all right away. She lines them up beside her teacup, fingers lingering on each. Then she picks up the last one, opens it slowly. The paper crackles. His words, "If this never reaches you, then at least I've said it somewhere. I loved you even in the silence. I never stopped." You feel it, don't you? That long thread pulled tight, and now, just now, loosening. It takes her weeks to reply. And when she does, it's not with poetry, not with nostalgia. It's with directions, a date, a small cafe in Delhi. No promises, just a place. Meanwhile, he's at the university when it arrives. The envelope smells of old ink and jasmine soap. It has no return address, just a note. If you still believe in smoke and river, come. You follow him onto the train. His first time back across the border in decades. The world looks both older and too fast. But he holds the letter like a compass. The cafe is tiny, forgettable. Fans spinning overhead. You sit in the corner as he walks in, scans, pauses. She's there, reading something she isn't really reading. She looks up, sees him. Nothing dramatic happens. No running, no speeches. Just a silence so full it could drown a crowd. He sits. She pours him chai, then says, "You look exactly how I thought you wouldn't." And he grins. "I almost wore a blue scarf." They talk for hours. About everything and nothing. Families, cities, the way mangoes taste different now, the guava tree, the tin box, the things they wrote and the years they didn't. They don't speak about the missing years in detail, not out of avoidance, but out of reverence, like two people who survived the same storm and don't need to describe the rain. Here's the quirky little detail you'll love. They each brought the letters, hers in a cloth pouch, his in the box. Together, over a second pot of tea, they trade them like gifts. She reads his, he reads hers, out loud. Passages they forgot, passages they never received, whole chapters of their lives, returned. One waiter cries, "You're not kidding." The next day they part again. No rings, no sudden wedding, just a new beginning built not on what they lost, but on the fact they still remember. That's the power of a story written in ink and weathered by war. And if you're wondering whether they stayed in touch this time, well, you'll see, but not just yet. You're back on the platform now, but this time it's Delhi Junction, and the year is 1972. The air is cooler, crisper, less frantic, but the trains still scream with the same metal urgency, the tea still scalds your tongue, and somewhere in the background, old Hindi songs are humming through the tinny loudspeakers like ghosts from a gramophone. They meet again here, not accidentally. She's wearing gray now, hair shot through with silver. He's slower, a little hunched, but somehow still taller than the memory you carried. They're both holding small parcels, old habit. This isn't a reunion full of spark and fire. It's gentler, familiar. You're not watching lovers reuniting. You're watching survivors recognizing each other across the wreckage of time. And somehow that's more powerful. They don't pick up where they left off. That's not how love works when it's weathered by years and silence. Instead, they begin again. Letters become tea. Tea becomes walks. Walks become weekends. They write still, but now only as a ritual, a comfort. One letter a month, even when they're in the same city. She once jokes, "We wrote for so long I don't know how to speak around you." He replies, "Good. Letters don't interrupt." They don't live together, not out of shame or secrecy, but dignity. He stays in Old Delhi, she in a rented flat near Lodi Gardens. Every Sunday they meet beneath the same neem tree. She brings sweets. He brings books. They share everything but regrets. Mainstream historical fact. After the 1971 war between India and Pakistan, diplomatic communication was once again disrupted, and many families were severed permanently. But private reunions, quiet ones, still happened. often facilitated by third-party journalists or community groups. Not documented, not dramatized, just two people choosing connection over nationalism. Their story wasn't front-page news, it never would be, but in a way that kept it pure, uninterrupted by cameras or interpretation. They had been myth once, smoke and river. Now they were simply real. You're sitting on the bench with them one February morning when she pulls something from her shawl, a folded letter, a new one, not old, not reread. "I found this in a box I forgot I had," she says. "I never sent it. Dated 1949. He unfolds it carefully, as if it might disintegrate. In it, she writes about a day she almost married someone else, about a sari she never wore, about how she kept dreaming of a train ride that never ended. He doesn't speak when he finishes, just folds it again and holds it to his chest. Later that day, you find him writing, not for her niece, a note, a story. You realize then, he's archiving it. Not to publish, not to preserve, but so that someone remembers, because love that only lives inside one person disappears, but love that gets written, even if it's hidden, lasts. Quirky tidbit? She kept every one of his letters in a hollowed-out harmonium. Yes, a musical instrument. When her niece finally opened it after she passed, she thought the rattling inside was a mouse. It was memories. She dies first. Peacefully. No drama, no hospital lights. Just an armchair, her guava tree blooming out front, and a letter still open beside her tea. He visits her tree every week after. Sometimes sits beneath it and reads aloud. One time, a child asked if he was talking to ghosts. He smiled and said, "No, I'm talking to someone realer than most of the living." Historians still argue whether love like this, unfulfilled, unconsummated, undefined, is the truest kind. Whether longevity without marriage counts as devotion, whether survival without reunion still means love. You don't argue. You've read the letters. You've felt the silence. You know the truth. Some stories are written in blood, some in war. But theirs was written in ink, and never once did it smudge. In his final years, he donates both sets of letters to a library in Lahore, cross-border, quietly, no media, no plaque. Just a request that they be shelved together, side by side. A librarian there reads them, begins copying them into a collection titled "To the One I Never Forgot." And now, so do you. You carry their story in your ears, your chest, not loud, but deep. And if you ever find yourself at a station, staring at a stranger just a little too long, don't look away too fast. You never know what moment might survive the fire. So now the letters are folded. The train has left the station. And you're still sitting there, maybe with your eyes closed now, still hearing the rustle of paper and the quiet scratch of ink crossing an invisible border. You can let go of the tension in your jaw now. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breathing match the rhythm of old footsteps in quiet corridors. Inhale. Exhale. Just like they did, one letter at a time. Their story didn't have fireworks. No cinematic kiss in the rain. Just the steady drip of ink and the aching wait for a name on an envelope. But it endured, and that matters more than the ending ever could. Let that soothe something in you tonight. If you've been holding on to a silence, maybe let it speak. If you've been waiting on something lost, maybe let it come back, as memory, not ache. The world is quieter now, the kind of quiet where stories settle into you, not over you. Let the echoes of their love soften your heart, like the final notes of a song played gently in another room. Maybe you'll dream of a train, or a letter, or a blue scarf in the wind. And if you do, smile. That means they made it. Sleep well, listener. You've earned it.